Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to have a look at the upcoming crafting event vehicles in the files. They were added to the dev server recently, so it's time to show them to you. And understand, this probably means that the crafting event is either going to start tomorrow or the next day, so make sure to be ready for it. As always, when it comes to these crafting events, I'll make sure to make videos on them so you understand what to do. Usually, you just generally have to grind though, from rank 3 and above, but we'll do some number crunching tomorrow for you and sort it out. At the same time, if you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. Let's get into it. This is the AMD 35. The specific one is the SA 35. We actually already have the AMD 35 in the game. This one is slightly different because it has a slightly different gun and also turret on it. Every other part of it though, such as the chassis, is exactly the same. It actually has the same gun that you find on the AMC 35, the ACG-1, the little potato gun which is on that thing, which is the 47mm SA-35. What you also find is the crew inside. There is actually a 4-man crew, so you have one driver and then 2 in the turret, so commander, loader and gunner, and then also you have a kind of backup driver in the back, so you can actually move pretty quickly in reverse. All the ammo is stored in this area here, basically meaning that it's it's not a huge ammo rack, but it's not as if like this thing's going to have any armor anyway. You just shoot here and it's going to pop. Right now, according to Zabby, I will leave a link in the description to the post, the good old AMD 35 is rank 1, battle rating 1.7, and also a event vehicle with a repair cost of 120 in RB. So a good little starter vehicle to get you into the good old French tech tree. One of the things to remember is all of these stats are not finished, so things could change as we go along. The next vehicle we're going to have a look at is the A7. The A7 is coming to the game as the third A7 which we're going to have. This is the A7K. The difference between this one and the other ones that we've seen in the game are the fact that it has this setup on the cockpits. Also, it has access to a thermal targeting pod and AGM-65Bs, plus AIM-9Ls. So it does get a little bit more beefy in terms of armament. In terms of engine and everything like that, though, it's pretty much the same. Don't worry about the afterburner, that's just a file thing. This thing shouldn't get an afterburner. It is also the Puerto Rico, the A7K, at least the camouflage that it has, which is pretty nice. So overall, this one's looking pretty good. It's one of those which is probably going to struggle in aviation, but in ground battles, it'll have a pretty decent time. Right now, it's actually a BR 11.0. and it's a non-premium event vehicle with a stock repair cost in RB of 8,360, which is pretty aggressive, I would say. Also, at the same time, the vehicle does have a fully decked out cockpit, or at least one of them, so this is where you'll be sitting, very similar to what you see in the other A7s, and then the backup one, there is nothing there, so it looks like you won't be co-piloting anytime soon. It does have access to gun pods as well, plus rockets, plus a bunch of other things, but you can see all the pylons there. Dumb bombs, guided bombs, missiles, rockets, mavericks, gun pods, everything. Then, of course, the internal guns as well on the vehicle too. So, a ton of really cool stuff for the vehicle. And if you haven't played the A7, then I'm sure you can get into this. As I said, this thing probably isn't that interesting to a player like me who's already played and ground out the A7s, but to somebody who plays a lot of American ground forces, this might be quite nice for a higher end thing. Then we have the next one, which is, of course, the Cherbakov. Now, this one is kind of an odd name since it's two Shishers, but I've been told that it's actually just Chubakov, so you kind of forget about the first SH, at least in the English version. You can see here, it is the good old cruiser that we kind of already know in the game, because it's a Project 68, but this one was never finished. It was kind of an upgrade, or at least a general idea of an upgrade to the standard 68 series. It has the same or similar 152s, 6 on the front and 6 on the back of the machine. It also is complemented by a ton of secondary armaments. So you have all of these quad 45s, which are right here. So really nice secondary armament for that, especially if they get some really interesting rounds to them. It also has access to these 100mm guns, these dual setups that you see on the standard Project 68s. There's actually 3 of them on each side, so overall 12 100mm, more quad 45s sat around the place, and then just in case that isn't enough AA and utility guns, you also have access to 37mm, which exist all around the machine as well. Since this is a light cruiser, it doesn't have the best armor, and since it has a lot of guns, there's a hell of a lot of ammo on board of this thing. Like, pretty much anywhere you hit this thing, you have a chance of hitting ammunition. But at the same time, since it has a lot of guns and a lot of ammunition and all of that, it should be able to counterpunch pretty effectively, especially against aircraft. This vehicle right now is at rank 5. It's also seen as an event vehicle, non-premium, so you'll have to grind it out. Look at those ammo racks, by the way. They're crazy on the 68 series. Then the BR of this thing at the moment is 6.3. Which seems a little bit high, in my opinion. I feel like this is probably going to decrease. 6.3 seems a little bit high for something with 152s, but who knows? Maybe they give it something else. You can see it also has some animations for its radars and also tracking stuff, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's also something to look forward to. This is beautifully modeled though. It looks absolutely fantastic, a lovely vehicle, and hopefully many people will enjoy this. Also, we have, of course, the Q506. In the files, it's actually called the QN506. So this is the kind of weird BMPT at home that people have been talking about. It's a Chinese vehicle which is based on the ZTZ-59, which is based off of the T-54A. At the end of the day, it actually does have a drone which attached to it with a helipad, so I'm wondering if that's actually going to be its setup. In the April Fool's event right now, we do actually have a drone in it on the AA gunner. Also, we have fire and forget missiles, which are set up in the April Fool's event as well. So that might be a mini test for some of the things that this thing has. The QN506 actually has access to some really cool weaponry. So it has a crew of 3. They're all in the hull, they're all in the front of the machine. You can see here with their computers. You have the standard ZTZ-59 engine in the back and transmission, so mobility is going to be a bit of an issue, even though it should kind of be lighter than the standard ZTZ, but we'll have to see. It has the additional armor on it, which is the FY2 ERA and also some slat ERA on the side of it, but the weaponry is really the interesting one. So it has a coaxial gun, then it has a 30mm. It really depends on what rounds the 30mm gets to see how effective it is. If they give it, you know, APFSDS or HVAP or something like that, or APDS, it may be quite effective. If it's just standard AP and HE, probably not. Then you also have these 2 setups. Now, according to the dev blog, you have 2 sets of missiles on this machine. Now, you have the fire and forget ones, which are the large ones at the bottom, so those are the 4 that you see, and then you also have the smaller ones, which have a lot less penetration, which are the higher ones that you see as well, which are probably more either optically guided or going to act very similarly to the rockets on other machines that we've seen in the thing. So the actual trajectory is projected for them, and then they just follow it, so they can't be moved in flight. Maybe they will be able to, who knows? We haven't seen a system which has had all of these different aspects before, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all works. The general thing about it, though, and I've said this a few times on stream today, but also I will continue to say, until we know more about the actual munitions on this machine, it's very hard to tell how effective it's going to be. Right now, in the files, it's sat at 9.3, so that's the same BR stuff like the Puma, which doesn't really surprise me too much. It has a base repair cost in RB of 3,270 and also is an event vehicle, so you'll have to grind it out. Then you'll obviously have the commander's sight, which is way above the vehicle, so commander's view is going to be very useful for scouting and also other things. No idea if it's going to have like a auto tracker, or well, not an auto tracker, but more like a tracking radar thing, like a lot of the higher tier IFVs, or whether it's going to have other mechanics to it. It's very hard to tell until we get our hands on it, so I'm kind of waiting to see how effective this thing is. It also has this, which I don't really know what this is. I'm guessing this is an optical port on the vehicle. But I've got to say, this is definitely the prize of the event. It looks cool, it's weird, it's wacky, and it's a little bit of fun. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.